I'm News for Jackson's Chief Meteorologist David Heckard. Well, by now you've seen the devastating photos out of portions of Mississippi after a long-track tornado devastated central sections of the state. Unfortunately, there have been reports of multiple fatalities, numerous people injured, and the damage will easily go into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And this was a long-track tornado, which we don't see a ton of, but when we do see them, they're almost always violent and they almost cause significant and catastrophic damage, which kind of begs the question, how do we end up with a long-track tornado? Well, long-track tornadoes are always associated with these type of thunderstorms here. They're called supercells. Now, supercells are very, very different than other thunderstorms. In fact, they're the rarest type of thunderstorm, but they're also the most dangerous. One thing you notice very quickly is this big fanning out. That's a strong indication we have a supercell thunderstorm. And the interior structure is very different. We have updrafts and downdrafts like a typical thunderstorm, but those updrafts and downdrafts are somewhat separated. That allows the supercell to maintain its longevity. And in between the updrafts and downdrafts is this little area here. That is a rotating column of air called a mesocyclone. So supercells by definition rotate, which means the probability of them producing a tornado is far, far higher than your typical garden variety thunderstorm or a thunderstorm in association with a line of thunderstorms. In addition, supercells are almost always in an atmosphere of high instability and high wind shear. What that means is that there's a lot of energy oftentimes for a supercell to tap into, and supercells are almost renegade or rogue thunderstorms. There's normally no thunderstorm around a supercell, so supercells can really tap all the potential energy and maximize as they roll through parts of a region. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened in Mississippi. These were the storm reports from Friday evening. You can see this long-track tornado that got going very close to Rolling Fork, which was completely decimated, continue to work its way through parts of Mississippi. Now, what happens with supercells is sometimes the mesocyclone begins to weaken a little bit, and that's exactly what happened in this situation. So the system began to weaken, produce another significant tornado here in central sections of Mississippi near I-55, then produced a third major tornado very close to the community of Amory, which is sitting to the south of Tupelo. So one giant supercell produced three major tornadoes, and unfortunately two of those three did have deaths involved with it, and that is pretty common with supercells. They're able to last not just minutes but hours, and they're able to produce long-term tornadoes because, again, of that rotating mesocyclone. So are these type of tornadoes something we need to be worried about here in southeast Georgia and northeast Florida? Well, the answer is not really, but they can happen. You can see this big bullseye here in U.S. tornado frequency over Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. So it's not necessarily stunning that this is where they saw some really bad weather on Friday, but you can see we do get tornadoes here in southeast Georgia and northeast Florida, and we can't rule out long-track tornadoes. They're a little bit less frequent in this region because parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, even to some degree Arkansas, they deal with a much bigger clash of air masses. And in the upper levels of the atmosphere, what we call wind shear, it oftentimes is rolling through parts of the Gulf Coast. Wind shear in our area is significantly weaker. That does not mean, though, long-track tornadoes cannot happen. We had a long-track tornado in 1936 in Gainesville, Georgia, that decimated that community. And one of the bigger events in Florida was a long-track tornado that hit Kissimmee, Florida, back in 1998. So bottom line, long-track tornadoes are almost always a result of supercells, which are the rarest but most dangerous type of thunderstorm. I'm Assistant Chief Meteorologist David Heckard for Channel 4, the local station.